Here on the show, we have talked about Dave Rubin from the Rubin Report, who's another show here on YouTube, and everything is scripted for some reason. But anyways, to the point is he made another video defaming progressives and Democrats, and I'm here to expose what he truly is, and I finally figured it out. To be fair, a lot of people figured it out before I did. However, I'm here to break this down to you guys so you guys understand what it is. So basically, he went through and he basically attacks identity politics while playing identity politics. So you can't just say all progressives are social justice warriors. The real social justice warriors are not the Bernie supporters who are the real progressives. The social justice warriors were people like the Hillary supporters who made up the Bernie Bros bullshit. So he goes on to talk a ton about how these are progressive, they value race over this. Nah, dude, it's not like you're playing the race card when it doesn't need to be played. Seriously. If it weren't for the Progressive Party and the progressive people, we would have still had child labor. We would have had no women. So the suffrage movement for women wouldn't have happened. African American civil rights would not have been pushed. All of these different things wouldn't have happened. So this idea that and I didn't know this until now, but he's gay, so it makes it even more embarrassing, his argument, because he's leaning further towards conservatism, and he brings up the fact, if a baker denies to give you a cake, just go to another baker. In principle, that's ridiculous, because although you have the freedom to your religion, you cannot enforce your religion upon people in the public place. So yeah, it's privately owned. It doesn't matter. Businesses don't have the right to discriminate based on religion. Anything, it doesn't matter what it is. So you can't discriminate people. I'm a Christian and you're gay, so fuck you, I'm not going to give you a cake. No, you can't do that. That's discrimination. And the fact that you are leaning towards the party that has never fought for gay rights, vehemently opposed it, and still does to this day, it's unbelievably ridiculous that you are leaning towards them. But anyway, so here's the main thing. He goes on to, at the end, he throws this in there. I'm not even a Democrat. He says, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a progressive. So the dude's playing identity politics left and right, left and right. But anyways, so here's what he says he is. He says he's a classic liberal. It's a trick phrase, and I first heard it just 3 months ago. Okay, 3 months, 2 months, whatever. It's a very, very tricky word, and here's the thing about classical liberalism. It's a ploy to think that it's actual liberalism. It's not. What it is it's not socially liberal. It's definitely not socially liberal because, for example, the example I'm going to give you, the people who are classic liberals had no social, liberal, or conservative compass, really. They just didn't care. It wasn't even on their compass. So he is basically what he's talking about is he's a classic liberal in terms of economics, freedom of speech and all that type of different stuff. And in the other video, he used Bernie a lot because he was trying to play to the audience. But here's what a classical liberal is. It says, classical liberalism is a political ideology that values the freedom of individuals, including the freedom of religion, speech, press, assembly, and markets, as well as limited government. What is that? That is libertarianism. That's not being a Democrat. It's not being a progressive. It's not being a Republican. That's a libertarian. What libertarians don't have is a compass for social values. So that doesn't engulf that. So we don't know what the fuck your social meter is. But this idea that anything that you want to get done socially is just automatically your social justice warriors if there's no actual social problems helping transgender people and getting those laws removed is utterly ridiculous, and you're trying to play that card. But here's the point. To the economics point, you are a libertarian. Stop trying to hide it. Stop using the stupid words classical liberal because you're trying to retain as many people possible because nobody cares about libertarians. That's not even a big enough party to be big enough, and the libertarians are really people who are in the red states. They're conservatives, but they don't have a social compass, and they actually hate the government, and they think the government is the enemy of everything, and it's the main enemy. It's Gog and Magog, it's the devil, it's Satan's, whatever. But anyways, so I told you it has no social part of it anyways, but here's the point. He's not actually a Democrat or a progressive or anything, or a Republican. I would say he leans more conservative than he does liberal, because if his social compass is so far off that he thinks that preventing discrimination based off of sexual orientation is not necessary of social change, then I don't know where the hell your compass is. Supposedly religious people are supposed to have the moral compass. I don't see it. But anyways, the last point I want to get here into, I'm going to give you an example. And this is the first person that I've heard the term classical liberal. And when I first read about this guy, I was like, oh, classical liberal. So he must have been a liberal. These classical liberals, they are totally massively laissez-faire, massively don't regulate, massively capitalist at heart. Corporations go, and they don't have any social meter whatsoever. They don't give a shit. It's all money in their eyes. That's why he's like, oh, why are you guys all playing these group politics? It's because in that society that they imagine, there is no race. It's just corporations, it's the workers, and then there's money. And that's what this guy, his name is Herbert Spencer. And this dude was one of the biggest maniacs ever. He was a philosopher, and he said that if you were to give charity to the people who were poor or disabled, you were doing an injustice to humanity, because those people are supposed to die off. He was a social Darwinist. He believed that, hey, if you were injured or disabled or whatever, you're supposed to die off. I'm sorry, what do I tell you? It's not like I was born into a decent family and you weren't, but fuck it, you're gonna die, dude. And that's the way it's supposed to work, man. And don't regulate, don't touch the corporations, nothing at all. Don't do it. So they don't give a shit about poor people. What these guys are is libertarians that are all about anti-regulation. Once you get into that anti-regulation phase, how many bank crashes are we going to have in the country? Just please let me know in the comment section. Are we going to have 50 bank crashes in the next 50 years? Are we going to have 100 bank crashes in the next 100 years? Anything that is hardcore laissez-faire and you think that the government is the enemy and not necessarily that there's a middle ground at the very least, you are absolutely bizarre and ridiculous, because all I got to do is point back 2008. Tell me how a laissez-faire system would have prevented that from happening. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Let me know. Dave Rubin's a fraud. Make sure you leave a like on this video, because there's going to be a lot of Dave Rubin social justice warriors here that we see everywhere. Because classic liberal is a nice camouflage you play there, buddy.